the chair of the all-powerful ERG, the European Reform Group. Jacob Rees Mogg is here. And the chair of the Health Select Committee in Remainer, Sarah Williston. Very good evening to you both.
Good evening.
Sarah Williston, is this the lancing of the boil? Cures it, and we now move on and strong and stable, or is this the start of a crisis?
I very much hope so, and I wish, of course, we'd been in this position months ago. But the fact is that there have been irreconcilable differences, it seems, not just in the Conservative Party, but in both main political parties. But what we absolutely needed here was a restoration of collective cabinet responsibility. We couldn't carry on negotiating with ourselves whilst we're trying to conduct this really important negotiation.
The next flashpoint, of course, is when concessions are made to meet the European demands, and so things have to go a bit further. But I'm guessing that you would actually almost think she should be happy to make those concessions. She can open up and now start appealing across the House to Remainer types who want a softer Brexit.
Well, yes, of course, I welcome the move to a softer Brexit. I welcome the fact that she's listened to the voice of business and put the economy first. And of course, regulatory alignment was always going to be important if we wanted to recognise.
But even softer still, I mean,
points.
you'd be happy for it to move softer still, I think, right?
Of course, but I recognise that there are tensions and that both sides have to give and take. I think this is a significant step forward. I welcome this.
And then there's a vote in a few days, really, on the trade bill and an amendment down to force us into a customs union. Is that gone now? Is that dead now?
I think for the time being, people will want to give Theresa May a fair wind to carry this through. Whether or not there is a backstop position put in just in case the EU reject this deal, because of course this all now hinges on what the EU response is.
Okay. Jacob Rees Mogg, isn't Michael Gove right? Your best bet, if you want to get out, is just get out and pick up the pieces afterwards, because the threat to getting out is going to be the threat of chaos, maybe people changing their mind.
I think Michael's analysis doesn't work. First of all, in terms of getting out, the legislative basis for getting out is in place. So the Withdrawal Act is through and the Article 50 Act is through, which means under UK and EU law we leave on the 29th of March next year at 11 in the evening. That's point one. The second point is that if by then we have got an international treaty with the European Union and the outline for a trade negotiation, reopening that, unpicking that, will be exceptionally difficult. So I think it is very optimistic to suppose...
You've got to do it now.
You've got to do it now. Now is the essential time. But if nothing is done between now and the 29th of March, we leave without a deal. That is now the legal position.
And you're happy enough with that position anyway?
It's not the best position, but it is a very satisfactory fallback position.
You've been very loyal to Theresa May today. You've been saying you wanted to change her checkers plan, but you're very loyal to her. Now, let us suppose, this seems very likely, she doesn't change the checkers plan. You can't remain loyal to her, no?
The personal loyalty is separate from policy loyalty.
Right.
The question the Prime Minister faces, and it's a really serious one for her, is she can either go back on her plan and go back to what she said before. And the real difficulty that Leavers have is that the Prime Minister is not doing what she said she would do. And that is very damaging.
So that's choice one.
That's choice one, is to go back to Lancaster House. Choice two is to get it through on the back of Labour votes. Now, to get a major part of the government's programme through on socialist votes is really damaging to the Conservative Party and historically has presaged a big split within the party.
Surely isn't about internal party politics. This is about what's best for the country and best for our economy. Shouldn't that be the priority here?
Of course it should, and what is best for the country is leaving the European Union, which is a failed economic model.
There's disagreements over that, though, Jacob Rees Mogg. So the point is, if you... Why be fussy about which votes you want to get? If you can get Labour votes, I mean, she'll be happy to get Labour votes, wouldn't she, Theresa May?
I completely accept there is a difference over it. But what is so important is that politicians do what they said they would do. And that is what Mrs May is failing to do in this.
So you think...
But Jacob, you have relied on Labour votes yourself in the past to get policy issues through on Brexit, like in the most recent votes, taking 6 votes from the Labour Party. So I mean, you can't pick and choose. We just need to be realistic that there is a difference of opinion on both sides of the House on this really fundamental issue.
Sorry to interrupt. This isn't talking about 2 or 3 votes. This is talking about 50 to 100 votes. It would be a really major split within the party, organised by the top of the party.
And if Theresa May shows an inclination to say, let's take those Labour votes. And today it seemed they were going to, because they were trying to brief some Labour MPs. They were planning to brief Labour MPs on the Chequers deal. If she takes that choice, at that point, you'll put your name, you'll send your letter in to get
No, I'm not writing any letters to Sir Graham Brady. I'd just remind the Prime Minister about Sir Robert Peel. Sir Robert Peel did not lose any vote on the Corn Laws. He lost it on an Irish coercion bill. That it is very, very dangerous territory for Prime Ministers to rely on opposition votes because they find they are fair weather friends. They're not there every day of the week. What Prime Ministers need is a loyal party that backs them day in, day out.
But you know...
So back her.
If she stuck to her policy...
That's what she needs, is a loyal party.
You can't argue with a loyal party and then, and then say, but you're not going to back her.
The leader has to be loyal to the party in return. And the Prime Minister set out very, very clearly at Lancaster House what her policy would be, and Chequers is not that policy. Chequers is not really leaving. It introduces the acquis communautaire for goods and agri-goods. It means that the European Court would determine how those rules were interpreted.
Sarah, I want to give a last word to Sarah. Sarah Wilson, isn't the truth that your party is absolutely ragged on this? There have been sweary emails going between your own MPs. There have been...
not involving either.
Sorry, sweary tweets. Sweary tweets. We've had, you know, one MP saying "Good day in Westminster" and picture of the Titanic. Don't you have to essentially say this is just a free vote matter? We cannot keep this party together on that. Let people vote with their conscience in the cabinet or out of the cabinet. What's wrong with just doing it that way?
I don't think you can have that in the cabinet. You have to have a collective position. But personally, I'm more comfortable than Jacob is with the idea of having free votes, because I think this really is something we just have to accept. There are very strong differences of opinion. I think we do need to listen to the views of the 48% as well as the views of the 52%. And I'm afraid that the fact is that even within that 52%, there is clearly a difference of opinion. And the trouble, of course, with any combination you want to pick, you're going to find that a very significant group of people are unhappy. This is a pragmatic way forward.
OK, we'll leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed.